Okay, if we can all gather around, let's get the meeting started tonight. Good evening, everyone. I'm Chairman McGinley. Thank you all for coming to the special meeting of the Central Committee. I know there's a lot of angst and tension that has built up over the last few weeks. I just want everyone to take a deep breath. You know, what we're looking at here, we're all going to get through. We're all going to get through the night, and tomorrow's going to be another day. And we'll continue on with the business of the party and make sure that we're stronger and better because of it. So, you know, I just want to say that up front so we don't have this building angst even into the meetings early on. Before we begin, I'd like to ask Carrie Dickinson, a professional registered parliamentarian with the National Association of Parliamentarians, to introduce herself and give us her background. Carrie was brought to us through the state party. I did not meet her or even know her name until she just showed up here tonight. This was done, so we have an unbiased opinion that no one really got to chat with the parliamentarian or influence any decisions ahead of time. So I'll let Carrie introduce herself if everyone is okay with that.
Well, good evening, fellow Republicans. I always like to be with Republicans and all the veterans. Yay! So, my name is Carrie Dixon. I am a professional registered parliamentarian and received my certification in 2004. This is the highest certification that can be obtained in the National Association of Parliamentarians and is recognized worldwide. I'm the District 8 Director for the National Association of Parliamentarians, responsible for educating and assisting the members in the states of Arizona, California, Hawaii, Nevada, and Utah, and the territories encompassed by Asia and Japan. I teach parliamentary procedure at all levels to all kinds of groups. The more familiar the organization is with its own rules and its parliamentary authority, the better the meetings and the more effective the organization becomes. I've served clients across the nation and assisted the RNC last July in Cleveland with regard to committee meetings prior to convention. The RNC reached out to me recently and asked if I'd be willing to help out a fellow Republican state with my parliamentary procedure expertise. And I really said, heck yeah, but always willing to serve the GOP, I said I would be happy to assist. I currently serve the Utah State Republican Party as their parliamentarian, and in conjunction with those duties, assist many of the county parties throughout that state. It is my pleasure to serve this evening as the chair's parliamentarian for this special meeting. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to begin with an invocation being offered by Amy Lomax. Amy, if you don't mind coming up and leading us in prayer, if you all don't mind.
Please join me in the invocation. Thank you, Lord. We pray for our military. May you meet the needs of those currently serving our country. Grant them courage, compassion, and strength. Sustain them through all of their trials. Lord, we are grateful for your service. We're grateful for all of those serving here today in the Republican Party. And we pray that we come together and support the principles that our country was founded upon. Again, Lord, I ask you, God bless Natrona County, Wyoming, and the United States of America. In his name, amen.
Thank you, Amy. Next, I'd like to ask any of the veterans in our audience, if you don't mind standing for a second, please, to be recognized. Any veterans, current, past? Senator Anderson, as a veteran, would you mind coming up and leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance? If everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Before we start, before you do your hand salute, let me tell you about the Pledge of Allegiance. In 1954, Dwight D. Eisenhower added "under God" to the Pledge of Allegiance, but the Congress debated it for months whether there was a comma after "one nation, comma, under God," and it came out that "one nation under God" was one sentence. There's no comma there. So don't pause after one nation. It's one nation under God. Yeah. So let's salute the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Before everyone sits down, if you all don't mind standing up again, sorry about that. Another thing I know. The other thing I want everyone to do is turn to the person on either side of them and welcome each other, introduce yourselves, and say hello.
I love that. That's great.
I swear this so
Not a chance. I love bright colors like that though. Oh, I love that line.
Me too. I just finished it. I need some of this.
I know that sounds like a trivial act, however, I received several comments from members of this body. I don't know if you've noticed, we've been moving the place cards around at meetings recently. And several people commented that that's been a great idea. They get to meet people in such a large body that they've never met before, people in the community they've never met before, and by sitting next to new people, you never know where the relationships are going to begin and spark. And I think it's a great idea, and I think introducing each other and shaking hands, nobody got bit, right? So there was no, okay, good. I didn't think so. But definitely, thanks for indulging me in that request. I think it's important for all of us to know that we're all part of the same team, and that's how our outlook should be moving forward. Next, I'd like to recognize any of the legislators we have here in the crowd. Any current legislators, please stand. Representative Dwyer, Senator Anderson, Senator Perkins, and Representative Louts, and Representative Sweetie in the back. And what was her?
Representative Overmuller.
Representative Gray way in the back.
Overmuller.
Oh, so I didn't see you there. Representative Overmuller. Oh yes, got you over there too. Sorry, it's hard to see when you're in the back of the crowd there in the cheap seats. Thank you all for coming tonight. It's great to have all of you here in your continued service. I know it's a lot of time in the legislature and to volunteer your time and even come as guests at the meeting. Definitely appreciate it and shows your support for our party. County commissioners in the audience, I know Matt Keating, I saw, so if you're a county commissioner, please stand. I know I saw Matt Keating, Forrest Chadwick, Rob Hendry, is any others that I missed here in the audience? Okay, round of applause for our commissioners. And then City Council, I know we have Jesse Morgan here in the crowd. Any other City Council members? Got you, Josh, is in the crowd. Ray, Jacob. And then finally, I want to recognize Amy Womack as the president of the Wyoming Federation of Republican Women. Thank you very much, Amy. Very worthwhile and strong organization that helps us all look better as a party as a whole. So thank you very much for that. Any other elected officials that I have missed? I know I'm a rookie at this, so please forgive me if I have. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so with that, we want to get into the meeting at hand. The special meeting of the Natrona County Central Committee will now come to order. There is going to be a correction in the published agenda as follows. Under the consent agenda, there will not be approval of the minutes from any prior meetings. Since this is a special meeting, and those minutes will be taken up at the next regularly scheduled Central Committee meeting. So that's just an edit to the agenda that was recommended by our parliamentarian coming in. Yes, Kara.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, is there a date for the next regularly scheduled Central Committee meeting?
Kara, you are asking a lot of me. The answer to that is no. So this is now our second one in the last month for various reasons that we've had to hold, and we have not had any regularly scheduled executive committee meetings since then, so we have not had a time as a group to talk about that and put that together. So as of right now, we do not have a date set for that, but hopefully we can get beyond everything tonight and start working on that, fundraisers, everything else. So yes, we'll get that planned as soon as possible, but as of right now, there's no date set for that. Thank you. Okay, getting into the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, there are several appointments to be made, and sorry, I have some specific wording I have to use from our parliamentarian, and since I haven't had communication with them ahead of time, I have to make sure that this is done appropriately. So I'm learning, as the chairman, a lot of parliamentary rule. I've learned a lot in the last 6 weeks, probably more than I ever thought I would know. But as I move forward here, if you see me reading some of this stuff, it's specifically how I have to word this from our parliamentarian. So the following appointments are on the consent agenda: Credentials Committee, parliamentarian Carrie Dixon, the Teller Committee, Sergeant at Arms, Timekeeper, and Moderator. So if there are no objections, I would like to go forward with the appointments and then outline those. Yes?
Could you explain the role of the moderator? That's something new to this body, and normally I expect the chairman to be the moderator.
Okay. So I just consulted with our parliamentarian. It's a temporary presiding officer. The reason I'm doing that is I don't want to have bias introduced into any topics where I may be discussing. If I have to go back and forth as both the discusser and the chairman, I think that it looks unfair and it looks like it could add bias to the discussion. So I would prefer that I appoint a moderator for those discussion points. And really the only one I'm going to be involved with is topic number 1. All right, so we will go down the committee. So for the Credentials Committee, we had Leslie Hendry, Paul Lamb, Crystal McGuire, Ryan McConaughey, Allie Sanders, and Annie Sanders. For Parliamentarian, Carrie Dixon. Our Teller Committee, Renee Vito, Terry Good, Chris Lindsay, and Michelle Maines. Sergeant at Arms is Ann Engstrom. Timekeepers tonight are going to be Representative Chuck Gray and Bill Hempstead. You guys are both, Chuck, I know you're in the back. Bill, are you here? Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
And then the moderator, Representative Tom Walters. So if there are no objections, I'd like these appointments to be approved.
So moved.
Hearing none, the appointments are made. It's hard to actually read scripts on this. Okay, gotcha. The rules are also on the agenda. I sent those out with plenty of time for everyone to review. Are there any? Is there a second to that motion to approve? Okay. Senator Anderson, second. Any? Yes, JR.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would vote against approving the rules. I'd like to amend the rules. I move to amend the rules.
Mr. Chairman, can you?
Can't hear back here.
Do you mind stepping up to the microphone, or we'll pass it around?
I couldn't hear if he wants to. I'm in the first motion.
All right, JR, if you can repeat the motion.
Yeah, I move to amend the motion. I move that the time to speak from each motion shall be at least 5 minutes, and that I shall not abandon the right to be able to speak a second time, although I would limit that to 1 minute. And I would also include in that a motion amendment that we limit the topic, the discussion, for 40 minutes.
So can you please identify which number in the rules you would like to pull out? So there's numbers and categories in each rule. Can you specifically state which one you would like to amend? So I believe you're looking at number 5 under the rules.
Number 1.
And how would you like to amend number 1 and number 5? specifically? Let's start with number one.
That you do have each side for and against. I don't believe any member should be denied the ability to speak on a motion at any time, regardless how many are opposing it, because there's going to be there's some thought that there'll be very few people speaking in favor, or, well, depending on what side it is. One side will simply drop the ball, and the other side will be left with 25 people wanting to speak.
So, Jared, just to clarify with topic one, the way I meant to have that say, I mean, what it says and what I mean by that is that we'll have one designated person to prevent, I guess, opening arguments, and each side will have 5 minutes for opening arguments. Then you drop into the rules on discussion, which then will allow back and forth at 1 minute time limits. So that's how I have that set up, not just 5 minutes and 5 minutes and that's it. That's not what is intended by that.
That seems a little confusing, so do we know what the motion's going to be?
No. That's up to whoever makes the motion.
I would prefer a more ordinary debate protocol where you have 5 minutes to speak on a motion, on a main motion, and then when everybody's done speaking, perhaps a second time to speak if you feel it's necessary, down to 1 minute. Ordinary.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the rules that we have already and not know
That's an amendment.
Okay, so can you, JR, specifically, can you give us for number one, how you'd like that to read?
I wouldn't want to designate a specific person to speak first on a motion, on an introduced motion. Sure. Mr. Chairman, I'll withdraw that First Amendment, if I may. Yes, I want to move to a different number, if I could.
Okay. Is that-
On number 5, I would move to make that number 5 minutes. Strike the 1.
Mr. Chairman?
Do we have a second on that amendment?
Second.
Moved and seconded. To strike 1 minute and add 5 minutes per person for number 5 of the rules. Any discussion on this topic?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Representative, or committee member?
if we allow 25 people 5 minutes, we'll be here all night.
That's what it takes. That's right.
Committee member? And everyone?
Chairman McGinley, I would like to encourage this proceeding in this body to make it a point to allow for as much discussion unfettered as possible, because we have some really emotional issues in front of us, and what will help us to get to resolution of those the best is if we indulge each other to have full range of opportunity to make comments and ask questions, and to have nobody feel like their voice is being restricted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? Yes.
Parliamentarians, if they keep repeating a certain subject, the same thing again, I mean, that's a waste of time.
Please address the
How do we
chair.
limit
Can we move the microphone for the people, because we can't hear what you're saying?
There's one right over there. You can go grab it.
Yes, we'll be carefully monitoring the repeating of topics and information throughout.
Because that, I think if everybody keeps saying the same thing, we're wasting our time.
Thank you. Committee member?
Mr. Chairman, Bruce Finchy, Precinct 310. Can't hear you. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, Bruce Hinchy, Precinct 310. Mr. Chairman, I would oppose the amendment and ask that we defeat this amendment and then vote for the rules immediately thereafter, for adoption of rules as written, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I just would like to point out that just because there's 5 minutes available doesn't mean that every single person who wants to talk has to use all 5 minutes.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion? Okay. Any member?
Mr. Chairman, I'm Jim Anderson, 19. I'd also like to oppose the amendment and leave the 1 minute. It's pretty traditional that people can say something in about 1 minute and then they start drifting off after that. So 1 minute is good.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion points? Hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment as stated for number 5, changing it from 1 minute to 5 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
No.
Division on that one. If we can have our tower committee please come to the front.
Stand up and hold the green one if you're...
So all those in favor of the amendment as stated, please stand. If you're voting for the amendment, please stand.
This is for 5 minutes instead of 1.
So if you have 2 proxies or 1 proxy? One finger for one. You can carry 2 proxies. 1 finger for each proxy you're carrying. Okay, please be seated. All those opposed to the amendment, please stand, and if you're holding a proxy. Okay, so based on the voting, the motion fails. Okay, so back to adopting the rules as presented. There's a motion and second. Yes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tom Reeder, 8-4. I too would like to amend these rules, and then I have them all written out here. If you would like, I can give them to the secretary, but basically there's a motion to amend 4A, and that would be changed to instead of one side of the debate runs out, there would be a maximum time of 40 minutes spent on each topic. Motion to amend 4B, that would be deleted in its entirety. First of all, it takes 2/3 of a vote on a previous.
No debate, just please provide the edits.
Excuse me?
No debate on the topic, please just provide the edits to the rules and then we'll open it up for debate.
Okay, so 4B, delete in its entirety. Motion, I would change that number 5 to 3 minutes, and you could speak twice. Second time, after everyone has had the opportunity to speak once, we should be allowed to rebut. Because I don't know, it doesn't say here if you're...
But, sorry, please don't provide commentary, just provide the rule changes.
Not very clear. Motion to amend the general rule number 1, and that would be to strike from the word chairman as outlined completely to the end. And at the beginning of that would be determined by a 2/3 vote of the Central Committee, as Robert's Rules of Order states. Motion to amend General Rule number 7 on the time limits. Cross out the chairman may impose and/or change time limits at his or her discretion. Motion to amend General Rules number 9. Delete violation of the rules. That's my motion. Amendments.
So we're going to discuss each one of those individually and vote on. Okay. Actually, I think Senator Anderson here seconded. Oh, I thought you did. Sorry.
Another one who doesn't know how to run a meeting.
So we'll begin with 4A, maximum of 40 minutes. So changing it from one side of debate runs out of speakers to a maximum of 40 minutes on each topic. Any discussion on that change? Yes, committee member? You grab a mic, please.
Mr. Chairman, Bruce Henchy, 310. I would be opposed to a maximum 40-minute limit. I think most people in here can make up their mind within a few speakers of the items that are being presented tonight on the agenda. So I would be opposed to that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other discussion points for 4A? Okay. Hearing none. All those for the amendment of changing. Yep. So we're voting on 4A. The amendment was to strike out one side of the debate runs out of speakers and change 4A till debate will stop once 40 minutes on each topic has been reached. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? No. Okay, so we'll go to standing votes on that again. So all those in favor of the change, please stand. Okay. Please be seated. All those opposed, please stand. Okay. So the parliamentarian said if it's obvious up front, we don't have to count. It's fairly obvious up here what the vote results are. Please be seated. The motion fails. Okay. Moving into 4B, there was a request to delete the entirety of 4B. Any discussion on that amendment?
So, the reason I was deleting that is Robert's Rules of Order already addresses a previous question, and in there is 2/3 vote, and you're asking to go to just a majority vote on that. And so I wanted the people to understand really what was going on there. So I would be in favor of the amendment. Thank you.
Any other discussion points? Yes, committee member.
Oh, I have a point of parliamentary inquiry. Mr. Chairman, thank you. That sounds like a parliamentary question, a point of order question. So are you saying, Tom, that this vote requires a 2/3 majority, but in the rules it's saying only a majority?
Please don't debate
I'm sorry.
amongst yourselves.
Okay, I'm just asking the question of the parliamentarian, or for you to make the ruling with advice.
I'd like to object to this particular one.
Sorry, excuse me, 1 second.
Sorry.
So the parliamentarian advised this is against parliamentary procedure and recommends striking as written. So if there's no one opposed to that, we'll strike 4B in total. No objection. 4B has been deleted. Okay, so number 5, debate shall be limited to 3 minutes per person instead of 1, and individuals can speak twice after everyone has spoken once. Any debate on that amendment? Yes, committee member.
Paul, ma'am. I'd like to encourage voting in favor of this, as everybody has the right to speak, and I believe it's Robert's Rules of Orders that you get to speak again if everyone who wants to speak has spoken.
Question. Mr. Chairman.
Question called.
Mr. Chairman, if we're going to speak again, my question is going to be, is that going to be limited to 1 minute per person?
Sorry, for clarification, the amendment that was just proposed is that debate shall be limited to 3 minutes per person, and each person will be allowed to speak twice after everyone has gone once. Everyone who is interested in speaking has gone once. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, I think he's asking if the second time you speak, if you're limited to 1 minute, or you get 3 minutes.
Clarification on your amendment? To clarify that, so the question was, on your second time around on speaking, what's the time limit on that? And that was 1 minute.
Mr. Chairman, I would be opposed to this amendment. I think the rules presented are a little bit better way to handle things. It limits the time more, and as I said previously, everyone's got their mind made up on some of these issues, I believe, and within about 5 or 10 minutes, you're going to know where you stand on any other ones.
Any further discussion points? Yes, committee member.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just think that these, the issues, the topics we're talking about tonight, if somebody was up debating it and only had 3 minutes, they might have some questions or some concerns in there that we all need to listen to. And by at least having 1 minute to rebut to that, you could answer that question. So I think this is very much in order, and I would support the amendment. Thank you.
Any other discussion points?
People back here too, guys.
Any other debate on this topic? Sorry. Actually, I think I saw a committee member over here first.
All I want to say is, I don't think everybody's had their mind made up, like one of our members has said. We've got a big division in this room here, and I think we need to take the time and figure things out here and let people talk. That's all I have to say.
Any other debate on the topic?
Mr. Chairman, we've taken quite a few liberties with the limits of limiting debate the way it is. I don't think we're being unfair, and especially when you consider the topic is, bylaw, basically violations of the bylaws. I don't think we should be so cavalier about that.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
in the back. Yeah,
That's
committee
right.
member in the back.
It's more than just those
Mr.
guys.
Chairman, I would support this amendment just for the simple fact that this is obviously kind of a big deal. It's dealing with several large issues. I personally am a huge fan of freedom of speech. I like to have my voice heard if I need more than 60 seconds, and if people don't have more than that, they don't have to be here, I would say. I would prefer the time.
Sorry, I was also asked for the sake of our secretary up front, if you can state your name and precinct as well when speaking.
I apologize. Morgan DeWitt, Precinct 7-1.
That's from the parliamentarian. Yes, committee member.
Jim Anderson, 1-9. I'm opposed to the amendment. I think the rules are written correctly to move the meeting like we should. We're going to waste a lot of time, obviously, in this debate.
Any other discussions on number 5? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment on number 5 from changing the time limit from 1 minute to 3 minutes and allowing individuals to speak twice after everyone has had a chance to go once for a time limit of 1 minute. So if you're for that amendment, please stand.
It's a good one.
please be seated. All those opposed, please stand. So for this one, please remain standing. We're going to do a count on this one. Okay, please be seated. For those in favor, please stand. If you're holding one proxy, if you're just seated for a proxy, then don't raise your hand. If you're voting for yourself and a proxy, raise 1. If you're voting for yourself and 2 proxies, raise 2.
Are you up or down?
I was up. I thought
Okay.
you said that.
So keep standing, sorry.
All right. All those opposed to the amendment, please stand. Same thing. If you're voting plus a proxy, hold 1. If you're voting plus 2 proxies, hold up 2.
Yeah, I saw it. Okay. Yes, you may sit. Thank you.
So believe it or not, that was a tie, 54 to 54. So my visual acuity is pretty good. So in that case, the motion fails. No, not yet, but because this is a simple vote, it's just a majority rule on that. I checked on that already. We're coming to it. We have to get through the rules first.
That's
I asked that same question. Okay, going into general, so the amendment in general rules number 1. The amendment on that was to strike everything after determined. So general rules number 1, strike everything after determined.
Mr. Chairman?
Excuse me, we're into the Second Amendment, please. On the
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we table the remaining amendments and at the same time with that vote, pass the rules as presented by the chairman.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so just a clarification on the wording, it's to postpone indefinitely the amendments to the remaining rules, and our parliamentarian advised me that that requires a simple majority vote to essentially indefinitely ignore the rest of the changes that were suggested.
Point of order.
Yes.
I have so I don't understand how we can be voting on anything without the credentials committee doing a report and verifying that everyone's service should be here.
So our parliamentarian stated, since we obviously have a quorum, and everyone has signed in and have been verified, that we are allowed to move with those, and we will get to the teller report as soon as we're finished here with the rules. If we have a credentials report, we can provide it now, if the credentials committee has finished with the All right, so we have a total of 112 individuals voting, 94 individuals here, 18 proxies, and a total of 28 guests. That's the report from the Credentials Committee.
Wow.
Sorry. We have 112 total for voting, 94 individuals and 18 proxies, and 28 guests. So a 2/3 majority would be 75 people.
Point of order.
Question or point of order?
I'm not sure. I guess you'll have to tell me. There was a member who presented her credentials and we ignored her.
That's out of order for this. So that is not a member as of the list that's verified at the county clerk's office. So that is out of order. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Sorry, we have a motion and a second on the floor to indefinitely postpone the remaining amendments. So we're going to open this up for discussion now. Committee member?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So normally it would take a majority vote to table this, lay on the table, but I think Robert's Rules of Order points out that since these special rules actually limit the amount of debate in what you can say and time limits, as on page 390 in Robert's Rules of Order, it takes 2/3 vote. So thereby, I think it would require to table, it would take 2/3 vote also.
After conferring with our parliamentarian, that is not true. A simple majority of the group at hand can postpone indefinitely the amendments as stated. Okay, any discussion, any further discussion? Yes,
There's no more discussion on a tabling motion.
Thank you, Jesse Morgan.
Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, I recognize
Raised to
committee
a point
member
of
up here.
order. There is no discussion on a tabling motion.
Sorry, we're not tabling. Officially, the correct statement on how this was made was to indefinitely postpone. Yes.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. It would help if we could just quickly get an overview of the rest of the amendments that we may be tabling or postponing.
So the question was, what else are we going to be tabling if we go through with this request as stated? So under General Rules number 1, it was to strike everything after the word determined and change it by 2/3 vote of the Central Committee. The second one was under General Rules number 7, to strike the sentence, the chairman may impose and/or change the time limits at his or her discretion. And then finally, under number 9, strike violation of the rules. Those are the 3 remaining that would be included in this motion. Any other discussion points? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of the motion to indefinitely postpone the amendments, please rise. Okay. All those opposed, please rise. So please be seated. All those opposed, please rise. Okay, please be seated. So we're going to have to count here again on this one. So all those in favor of indefinitely postponing the remaining amendments, please stand. If you're holding one proxy, one finger, 2 proxies, 2 fingers.
The last 2 rows, if you could stand up again. That's an exercise.
think they're done.
Are we done? Can we
I'll say it. You count by five.
Last row gets tortured a little bit.
That's what I just said.
Just like got painful after a while, you know, something else. Probably got public fright or
All those opposed, please stand. All those, so we just did the ayes for the motion, which was to indefinitely postpone the remaining amendments. All those opposed to that motion, please stand.
Okay, now you guys can sit down.
19, 21.
No, I want you to do it, please. 29. Thank you.
33. I can't hear it over there.
It's 33.
33 and 34.
No, 34 and 35.
36.
37.
38.
39.
40. 41 and 42?
43.
44.
46. 47.
49.
50.
51.
52. 53.
All right, so that motion fails. The ayes had 44, the noes had 53. Motion fails. Okay, back to the amendments.
Mr. Chairman?
Motion fails. So the motion to indefinitely postpone the remaining amendments failed. So we're back onto the three remaining amendments.
Mr. Chairman, if we have 100
Name and precinct.
oh, sorry, Bonnie Foster 26. If we have 112 votes, we have 53 and 44.
No votes.
We have a bunch of, like, people not voting or people not here.
People leave.
Okay, so the parliamentarian stated that those are votes that abstained and do not count one way or the other, so the motion fails. Okay, getting back to general rules number 1. The amendment as proposed was to strike everything after the word determined and then add by 2/3 of the central committee. Any further discussion on that amendment? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, which is to strike everything after determined and add by 2/3 of the central committee, please stand if you're in favor of that amendment. Please be seated. Those opposed to that amendment, please stand. Okay, please be seated. We're going to have to count again. All right, those in favor of the amendment, which is to strike everything after determined and add by 2/3 of the central committee, please stand. And we're going to go through the counting process again.
Go row to row.
Do you have any kids? 3 Palm together.
33.
36.
39, 40, 41, 42. 45. 46.
48,
49.
50,
51. 52.
All those opposed to the amendment, please stand.
Forty-four. 45.
47, 48,
49.
50,
51.
52, 53,
54.
55, 56, 57.
Jesus.
Thank you. So ayes were 52, noes were 57, so the amendment fails. Okay, moving on to general rules number 7. The proposed amendment was to strike the sentence, the chairman may impose and or change time limits at his or her discretion. Any discussion on that topic? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment to strike the first sentence of number 7, please rise. Okay, we're going to just begin counting here because this is too close again, so we'll just start counting and skip a step.
Fifty-four,
55.
56,
57.
58. All those opposed to the amendment, please stand. I was advised by the parliamentarian we need to count even when it's obvious.
1, 7, 8, 9, 13, 14, 15, 18, 20.
29,
30,
31,
32, 33, 34,
35,
37,
38,
39, 40.
41, 42, 43, 44,
45.
46, 47,
48.
49, 50, 51.
Okay, the ayes have it, so the amendment to strike the first sentence of number 7 was approved, 58 to 51. Okay, moving on to number 9. The proposed amendment is to strike the first 4 words, which is violation of the rules. Any discussion on that point? See? Yes.
I just want to speak in favor of that, just in case somebody inadvertently violated the rules, that they don't deserve to lose all their privileges if it was an inadverse, an accident, so to speak.
Any other discussion points? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to strike violation of the rules, please stand. And we're going to go right into counting.
We're still moving it along.
Except 38,
39, 40,
41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 48, 49, 51,
52,
53.
54,
55.
56.
Okay, all those opposed, please stand.
Exercise class. The only thing you're lacking is the hokey pokey.
30,
But at least it's moving along, so.
31, 32, 34, 35, 36, 38, 39,
40,
41, 42,
43, 44, 45, 46,
47,
48, 49,
50.
51, 52, 53.
So the ayes have it, 56 to 53, so violation of the rules is stricken from number 9. Okay. And I have a motion to accept the rules as amended. Without any objections, we'll move to accept the rules as amended.
Speaker. As far as, so if a person stands up and takes, say, that 5 minutes on that, on, say, topic number 1, will they still get the opportunity to debate, or would their time be over?
Yeah, that's correct. Your time would be over because you've spoken once. As written. Any other? If there are no objections, the rules are adopted as amended.
I think you should read all of it, no?
Okay, moving on in the agenda. We already had the report of the Credentials Committee. I would now like to move to the next item of business, which is the introduction of the moderator or temporary presiding officer. As the chairman and vice chairman are both involved in the first topic of discussion tonight, it is proposed that Representative Tom Walters be the moderator or temporary presiding officer during the next item of business. If there are no objections, will the temporary presiding officer for the discussion of resolution or topic number 1 please rise? Any objections to the appointment? Seeing none, Representative Tom Walters will be the moderator, and at this time the chairman will step down.
Thank you, Chairman McGinley. The next item of business is the topics of discussion for the evening.
Mr. Moderator?
Topic number 1, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I have a parliamentary inquiry. I'm Kara Lynn of 3-5. Is this considered a committee of the whole at this point, and are we still allowed to make motions and vote on them during this portion of the proceedings?
We are not in the committee of the whole. We are just in regular assembly at this time, and we would move forward just as such. And so there would be no general discussion of that question. I answered it properly.
Can you speak up?
We are not in committee of the whole currently. We are in a general assembly as we are here this evening, and so I'm not sure what you're asking
So
with regard to that.
the second part of the question is, are we proceeding just as we would if the chairman were presiding, in that we can still make motions and vote on them and everything goes at normal? It's not just for discussion?
Correct. I am
Okay,
the acting chairman at this point.
Okay, thank you.
As such, I will be referred to as Mr. Chairman, and all discussion will come through the chairman, and we will not debate amongst each other. So with that, moving on to topic number 1, the chairman's decision and executive committee's action related to appointees at the Natrona County Republican Party Executive Committee. Is there a motion at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion.
Name and...
J.R. Riggins, Precinct 2-9.
Thank you.
Excuse me, a little preamble here.
This is just a motion, no discussion. Please state your motion.
I would move that the Natrona County Central Committee finds that the appointments made by Chairman McGinley on April 12, 2017 at the Executive Committee meeting were not properly confirmed and are null and void. Only that business which could be conducted without a quorum during that Executive Committee would remain intact.
Second.
Hey.
Name and precinct.
So that motion has been made and the second has been followed. So the motion before us is that the appointments made by Chairman McGinley at the April 12th, 2017 Executive Committee meeting were not properly confirmed and are null and void. Only business conducted after those appointments that could be conducted without a quorum during an Executive Committee will stand. That is the motion currently. Is it a point of order or a question, sir? Point of order, please proceed.
Ryan McConaughey, 2-7. I believe this is a reconsideration of already decided business and therefore would require a 2/3 vote to be considered.
So the ruling here is, this is the Central Committee, and those were appointments made during the Executive Committee. This body, there will be a simple majority vote, and that is because this body is directing the Executive Committee as to what to do. So we will not rescind any appointments this evening in this body. What we will simply do is give a directive to the Executive Committee that they will need to make new appointments, different appointments, rescind the appointments, whatever the Executive Committee's choice might be, but our decision here is to direct the Executive Committee on how we would like them to proceed.
Point of order.
Point of order or a question?
Well, point of order, I would say.
With that being said, sorry, Michelle Sobrowski, 8-5. There was a discussion and emails back and forth.
Point of order or a question?
Well, it's a point of order.
Regarding
the Krokers, no, it's not. We said they had to do a March election, they had to redo it because they were invalid, and now you're saying that it's different this time with this particular thing.
The motion
that we can't go backwards, then how come we went backwards concerning the Krokers, but we can't go backwards concerning these appointments?
Excuse me, ma'am, that's not germane to the topic we're on. The current motion is
It is
regarding
the same topic. You're saying you can go backwards for one, but not the other.
It is, there's a long list of reasons why it is different, but they are different, and so what you're asking, ma'am, is not germane to the motion that has been made and seconded currently.
If their election was invalid, and we have to go backwards and redo an entire election.
You are out of order, and I'm going to ask you to sit down because your points are not germane to the motion that has been made. So, we are moving back. There has been a motion made. There has been a second. We will now move into a discussion standpoint. We have seen the rules, and we know how the rules are going to work. We have amended those rules, and we are going to follow those rules.
Thank you, Chairman.
Name?
My name is Carolyn.
And where are you from?
I was getting there. 3-5. Relax. Everybody relax. Take a deep breath. I would like to read from the bylaws of the Natrona County Republican Party regarding this matter that is the subject of this motion.
Excuse me.
The bylaws state that
we are not
I'm speaking in favor of the motion.
We're
not in discussion yet? Oh, pardon me. I'll wait
Discussion is about to begin as the rules have been presented to us. So what we are going to do, as our rules that we approved said, we are going to have a presentation of 5 minutes in favor of this issue. We will then have a presentation of 5 minutes against this issue. We will then follow that by discussion from anyone that wants to speak, just as our rules have laid out. And so with that, I would move to the presentation by whoever might be making it in favor of this motion. If I could get the timekeepers down here in the front to help me out, that would be great. The motion as made by Mr. Riggins says that the Natrona County Central Committee finds that the appointments made by Chairman McGinley on April 12, 2017 at the Executive Committee meeting were not properly confirmed and are null and void. That's the first half of the motion. The second half of that motion then says that any business which was conducted without a quorum during the Executive Committee will not be considered as valid either. So only business that could be considered without a quorum will stand in those meetings, from that meeting.